Hey everybody, I'm almost finished editing a video in regard to the workbench out in the garage out the back. And just before I finish it, I thought I'd give you a bit of an insight into the editing process that I've gone through to make it what it is. So let's turn on QuickTime Player and get this thing happening. I've got about an hour of raw footage here. You can see over here in the browser, I think it's called. all this raw footage, and that amounts to about an hour of stuff that I've got to wade my way through and work out what I do want and what I don't want. And as you can see on the timeline here, I've ended up with about 5 minutes worth of stuff. So, well, in an hour down to 5 minutes, how did I do that and what did I do to it all? Well, you can see there's been an awful lot of editing. There's a lot of cutting and overlaying of different tracks, including the music track down the bottom here. So anyway, let's go right back to the beginning. You can see I always do this little bit of an introduction. Hey everybody, check out my new super heavy... straight away, I'm going to take you through a whole heap of bits and pieces here. I've got the GoJo Geoff thing, and you'll see it here on there. It's all set up just over here in the titles, and that's something that I've had for a little while now. So it always comes up as soon as I start speaking. So you get the little introductory bit of music. Hey. And then as soon as I start talking, you'll see that on the timeline. I'll make it a bit bigger so you can see it here. We got yes on the song, and then into the italics, and then I'm always straight into a video, very little introduction. I figure that the GoJo Geoff sign and the soon to appear watermark is all I need. Bench, and as you can see, it's got no legs on it. It's fully suspended. Here comes the watermark, which I made up ages ago, and I've kept with the same one. So there you go, that's what happens. And you can see already that I'm dealing with 4 layers of stuff to make that little bit happen with the watermark. So what I've started with is this track here, this bottom one, as that's my centerpiece, if you like, and then I work each side. Downwards usually is audio, and upward is the overlays. I'm using very untechnical terms here, but I'm just trying to keep it all very practical. So I've got a little overlay to start off with, because I'm just talking to the camera, Workbench, and jump into the overlay straight away. So when I'm thinking about doing a video like this, I'm constantly thinking about shots that I could use as overlays. Having overlays as much as possible is really important, because it keeps the brain engaged with what's going on. And of course with YouTube, you've got to keep people engaged. That's keep that watch time happening. So anyway, so the overlays are happening, and the other thing that I've got to be careful of too is the volume of the audio. So I'm constantly thinking while I'm editing of what the volume is happening, if it's too loud, and that's where these meters over here on the right hand side come into play. I keep watching where they're at. I try to keep audio at about -6. And the music, we'll go back to the start, the yes'em, I try to keep it around about the minus 15, minus 20. You can see it there, minus 20 I've got it at, yeah. And my audio there's +3, because I've worked out that I'm trying to balance it with some stuff that'll come in a minute. As soon as I get past my introduction, I go for a bit of a transition. That fella. Now I favour at the moment that little black transition. When I did the food reviews, I did a swipe, but I try to keep transitions to a minimum. I think a lot of people overdo them, seriously overdo them. In this whole video, in this whole edit, there is one transition, and it's right there That is the transition. There is no other transition the whole time. It's all about engaging the brain by making the audio work with the image and using the audio as a transition, making the images themselves working with the audio and the music as their own transition. So you don't have to use this manufactured thing. The reason I put it right at the beginning there is because I'm trying to separate the introduction from the main body of the work. So that's what I'm all about with transitions anyway. Deliberate separation of themes, if you like. So go back to the start and you can see...
Hey everybody, check out my new super heavy duty workbench.
Audio, introduction, overlay, title.
It's fully suspended. How did I do it? Wow.
In that overlay I've also put a bit of a stabilizer into it because it was a little bit rough without the stabilizer. I'll give you a bit of a look at it. See how bumpy it is.
It's fully suspended.
So I put the stabilizer in and it smoothed that all out. Thanks goodness for Final Cut 10.
Go right back to the very beginning and check out each stage.
Okay, and then we go into the transition. Now we come into...
Set up the levels.
You can see I'm talking here. Now if I deactivate the shot that you're actually looking at and show you what was underneath, you'll see I'm just talking to the camera here.
100 above the floor, which is pretty typical.
Get rid of that one as well. I'm just talking to the camera. So I've been thinking while I've been doing whatever the actual work is, I'm thinking constantly, what do I need to do for as part of the audio? And there you have it.
We want to set up the levels and this.
It's me talking into the microphone. All right.
900 above the floor, which is pretty typical of...
Let's jump forward a few steps to another overlay. Thinking once again...
600, so I'm going to need two pieces...
I actually do this, I do this physically, so I'm recording when I write down stuff on blocks of wood, any scraps that I can find. Paper doesn't work that well on a building site. So on a building site, I would end up at a hardware store with a great big hunk of wood with all my lists written on it. It's just so much easier to use than a piece of paper. So I thought I'd give you a bit of an insight into just how I work on a building site and using it in my workshop. So this is all overlays. Jump forward
600
and jump forward to this bit because we're now going to go into a bit of time-lapse, and with time-lapse I like to put a bit of music behind it. So from this point get a bit of music happening.
530.
That's down here.
Prepare ourselves for the fixing by the bugle button screws.
Talking about overlays again. And pretty soon anyway jumps into time-lapse. There we go. So this is where the 1 hour of footage got condensed because it's just way too long for a YouTube video, for any instructional video. There's just way too much material, so speeded it up in a variety of speeds from different shots, from 2 times to this is I think this is 20 times, but I used 2, 4, 8 and 20, and just depending on what was going on, and because you don't want to lose detail in the action by going too fast. You've still got to keep it understandable. So that's what was going on there. Okay, we'll keep jumping forward. All the time I'm thinking about audio levels here. So for like when I'm using these tools, I'm thinking I don't want the sound of the tools to be dominating over the voice. Obviously I want it the other way around. I want the voice dominating the sound of any tools. And then underneath that, so on this top track is the vision with the sound of the tool there, which is I've got it at -20. And then I've got me doing the voiceover, talking into the camera. I've got that just at -3 because I'm really up close to the microphone, so I thought I need to tone that down a bit, because in the other shots, like back at the beginning, I was at a distance from the camera, so that needed to be bumped up a bit. But back here it needed to be turned down a bit, so -3, and then the audio underneath, the music underneath it has gone way down to -40. So that kept it in a bit of balance, hopefully. So you can hear the tool going.
Once this bottom plate is in place, then it's a matter of working out all these weird angles.
You can just hear the tool going, give it a bit of context. The audio voice explaining everything, and underneath it, almost barely audible, is the soundtrack of the music. Keep jumping forward, then we go to thinking of audio again. You can see I've kept this at 0 because I'm sort of midway from the camera, and so that was okay. A photograph. I've thrown in a photograph of, actually it's Daniel on a roof, it's not me. I'm behind the camera in this one, but photographs in video is often a good thing, but a really neat thing that comes up with Final Cut Pro is you can do this automatic Ken Burns effect. Just adds a little bit more to the vision other than just a static shot. So there we go, and there you go, there's the Ken Burns effect all built in. You can adjust the parameters of it, of course, but it just adds, once again, interest, keeps the viewer's brain active. There's things happening the whole time. And I've just realised while I'm looking at this that I've got the watermark way too high. Let's talk about the watermark. To get the watermark in position, I show titles here, and you can see I've got it way too high. I need to get it down lower, out of sight a little bit, out of direct line of vision. I keep it down there towards those edge, and I use the title and safe zones parameters to sort of line it up. So yes, that needed to be moved. Thank goodness I saw that before I published the video. Okay, what else have we got here? Jump forward a little bit more.
Here's my snug as a bug in a rug fit with all the different angles.
With what I say, I'm not always trying to think of something quirky or interesting and that, but it does come in handy, and I do throw them in every now and again because the audio can get pretty boring and monotonous if you don't do that, and it helps to engage people. You never know what will come up in the comments from what you've said, as I have experienced. And so there we go, that's getting near the end of it. You can see that I've only did the music under the time lapse and the bit where I wasn't talking. From there on there is no more music. I don't need it, and there's plenty of audio with what I'm saying and with what's happening on the screen. Once again, keeping the actual audio of the tools and the picking up of tools and dropping them down, all down at low levels.
I'll get 2 full sheets like that.
Okay, that's about it for now. I will, before I finish this, what I am going to do, a great little tool in Final Cut Pro 10, is you just make a compound clip, and you can do your color editing and audio, a mass audio edit, by just making this compound clip. Okay, and you'll see all those edits, all those hundreds of edits, all of a sudden get bunched up into one clip. And now I can pull in the color correction and do a color correction, just a general basic color correction on the whole thing. The one that I always do, this is what I do nearly on every video. We go to, like you saw, show video scopes there, we get that little fella popping up, and the setting I have it on is what you see there. And I'll just try and get to a spot where this is obvious. Hopefully it will. But what I always do is pull down the exposure on the highlights. Just pull it down because it's gone above the 100 mark. Our eyes basically can't see above the 100, so I always pull that down just ever so slightly. And the shadows I pull down to -1, because you'll see they're not quite at the bottom line of 0, which is also the other limit. So I go -1 with my camera, the Sony RX10. That's about where it is. And then the mid-tones I just bump up slightly just to even everything out. And saturation, I'll try and get a spot. There's a bit of colour there. Saturation, I just push the whole thing, a global thing, up to about 10 to between 10 and 20, depending on what's going on. I don't want to make my face look too red. So there you go. That's just a bit under 10 this time. I can get rid of the video scopes there. So I'll take it back and turn the colour off. You'll see the difference. There's the colour off, the colour on. It's not much, but it's there. And then the only other thing that I'll do to this compound clip for the sake of the end product will be a vignette, which would chuck on there. There it is up there. And with a vignette you can see how dark the edges are. What I do is I blur out the edges, and I go to, this is after multiple, probably hundreds of videos. I just go 0.5 and 0.5 on the size, and the fallout I go to 1. So, and that ends up looking like that. So once again, let's get this, I'll get rid of those, the title, so you can see the difference. There it is, on and off. That's all that's happening. So it is a little bit more exaggerated when people look at it on their phones, but when you look at it on a computer or on the TV, I believe it just helps in the whole visual experience. So there you go, guys. That is a video that I've just done on the Workbench out the back, and tried to take you through some of the edits that I do. Probably the only other edit that I'll do will be an audio edit, which is up here. And I will do, rather than keeping it flat, I'll go to a voice enhance, get the equalizer out, and I don't particularly like the settings there, but I just flatten all those settings out. And what it does, leave that one alone, it just helps to accentuate my voice on the videos. Just take the highs, bring the lows up. The middle is accentuated, the levels of where my voice actually is, and the high frequencies are just taken out a bit. So the high pitch tools were taken out, and the low pitch, the low pitches taken out. So muffled sounds hopefully got rid of, and it just, I believe it helps to make the thing work better. Where's a bit of audio, so end up
case I have the
something
convenience
like
of
that.
having an adjustable bar stool, so it's going to support.
Probably don't notice any difference listening to it, but overall it just helps. It's a little tweak that just makes things work that much better. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you appreciated that. Might be a little bit complicated. I've been a bit quick with some of it, but that's what I do nearly every time I do a DIY video. That's what I was doing with all those food reviews. Every video takes hours to put that all together. Every video, hours of work in the editing room. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope that helped you in whatever program you're using, however you do your edits, and I'm sure you've got different ideas about some of the stuff I did. See you all again very soon. Bye.